producers, consumers, and decomposers. I can explain where all the energy in an ecosystem comes from. I can classify organisms on the basis of how they obtain energy and describe examples of each. Ecosystems need energy. Many ecosystems get their energy in the form of sunlight, which enters the ecosystem through photosynthesis. This energy then flows through the ecosystem, passed from producers to consumers. Plants are producers in many ecosystems. Energy flows from plants to the herbivores that eat the plants and then to carnivores that eat the herbivores. The flow of energy depicts interactions of organisms within an ecosystem. For example, bears get their energy from their food. Brown bears eat a varied diet, from nuts and berries to fish and other animals. When bears eat a berry, they are obtaining energy that the plant originally captured from the sun. Even when a bear eats another animal, the energy in that animal ultimately came from eating a producer that captured the sun's energy. Energy is the ability to do work. In organisms, this work can be physical work, like walking or jumping, or it can be the work used to carry out the chemical processes in their cells. Every biochemical reaction that occurs in an organism's cells needs energy. All organisms need a constant supply of energy to stay alive. Some organisms can get the energy directly from the sun. Other organisms get their energy from other organisms. Through predator-prey relationships, the energy of one organism is passed on to another. That is, the energy of the prey is passed on to the predator that consumed it. Energy is constantly flowing through a community. With just a few exceptions, all life on Earth depends on the sun's energy for survival. Producers and photosynthesis. The energy of the sun is first captured by producers, organisms that can make their own food. Many producers make their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process plants use to make their own food from the sun's energy, carbon dioxide, and water. The food the producers make is the sugar or glucose. During photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and water combine and using solar energy create glucose and oxygen. Scientists represent this reaction in the following way. Carbon dioxide plus water yields sugar plus oxygen. Glucose is a sugar that acts as the food source for plants. Oxygen, which is necessary for animal life, is the waste of photosynthesis. Essentially, these producers are changing the energy from the sunlight into a usable form of energy. They are also making the oxygen that we breathe. Oxygen is a waste product of photosynthesis. The photosynthesis song can be heard at this location. Take a moment to watch the song and then return to reading. Producers make food for themselves, as well as the rest of the ecosystem. As energy is not recycled, energy must consistently be captured by producers. This energy is then passed on to the organisms that eat the producers, and then to the organisms that eat those organisms, and so on. Actually, almost all organisms obtain their energy from photosynthetic organisms. For example, if a bird eats a caterpillar, then the bird gets the energy that the caterpillar got from the plant it ate. So the bird is indirectly getting energy that began with the food formed through photosynthesis that occurred in the plant. Therefore, the process of photosynthesis is central to sustaining life on Earth. The survival of every ecosystem is dependent on the producers. Without producers capturing the energy from the sun and turning it into glucose, an ecosystem could not exist. On land, plants are the dominant producers. Phytoplankton, tiny photosynthetic organisms, are the most common producers in the oceans and lakes. Algae, which is the green layer you might see floating on a pond, are an example of phytoplankton. There are also bacteria that use chemical processes to produce food. They get their energy from sources other than the sun, but they are still called producers. This process is known as chemosynthesis. It is common in ecosystems without sunlight, such as certain marine ecosystems. Producers include plants, as seen in picture A, algae, as seen in picture B, and phytoplankton, as seen in picture C. Notice how this leaf is slowly being broken down. This process can be carried out by fungi and bacteria on the ground. Breaking down old leaves is an important process since it releases the nutrients like carbon and nitrogen in the dead leaves back into the soil for living plants to use. Consumers. Recall that producers make their own food through photosynthesis, but many organisms are not producers and cannot make their own food. So how do these organisms obtain their energy? They must get their energy from other organisms. They must eat other organisms or obtain their energy from these organisms some other way. The organisms that obtain their energy from other organisms are called consumers. All animals are consumers, and they eat other organisms. Fungi and many protists and bacteria are also consumers. But whereas animals eat other organisms, fungi, protists, and bacteria consume organisms through different methods. The consumers can be placed into different groups depending on what they consume. Herbivores are animals that eat producers to get energy. For example, rabbits and deer are herbivores that eat plants. The caterpillar pictured below is an herbivore. Animals that eat phytoplankton in aquatic environments are also herbivores. Carnivores feed on animals, either herbivores or other carnivores. Snakes that eat mice are carnivores. Hawks that eat snakes are also carnivores. Omnivores eat both producers and consumers. Most people are omnivores since they eat fruits, vegetables, and grains from plants and also meat and dairy products from animals. Dogs, bears, and raccoons are also omnivores. Consumers can be both herbivores like the caterpillar or carnivores like the hawk. Predation. Predation is a relationship in which members of one species, the predator, consume members of another species, the prey. The lioness and zebra in the figure below are classic examples of predator and prey. In addition to the lioness, there is another predator in this figure. Can you spot it? The other predator is the zebra. Like the lioness, it consumes prey species. In this case, species of grass. However, unlike the lioness, the zebra does not kill its prey. Predator-prey relationships such as these account for most energy transfers in food chains and food webs.